Meet Taiyo Asano, a guy who's been dealt a rough hand in life, leading him to be completely socially inept. This shy high schooler is out here, drifting through life with all the personality of a brick until he trips into the world of espionage. He's a social misfit with the charisma of a doorstop, yet somehow his only friend just so happens to be Mutsumi Yozakura, the girl with a killer family secret. Taiyo is about to get dragged into the kind of chaos that would make anyone else turn tail and run, but this guy, oh no, he's about to marry into it and turn his life into a spy movie where he's a complete noob. Asano sits alone in the class during lunch break, looking absolutely battered. Right then, 3 guys walk up to him and invite him to come play soccer with them. Our heartbroken Maki is still too emotionally damaged, so he declines their genuine invitation. Dejected, the guys decide to try again another time, as they are trying to be supportive because they think Asano is a shy person. As they leave, Mutsumi walks towards him and scolds him for being alone all the time and rejecting offers to hang around with others. Asano acts nonchalantly and teases her too because she rejected the soccer team's captain who asked her out. She pulls up a chair and offers to have lunch together. As they are about to eat, their weird vice principal shows up out of nowhere, takes a bite of food meant for Asano, and starts obsessing over her and saying things that a vice principal should never be saying to his clearly underage student. They wave him off, and as he leaves, he asks Asano to come see him later. Asano is surprised and asks if he is in trouble, but the VP doesn't reply and only walks away. Asano walks to the VP's office, and there he sits on the couch and is offered some tea. The voice sits uncomfortably close to him and says that he invited Asano to show him his collection. He whips out his phone and starts showing Asano a long line of interesting-looking photos of Mutsumi in different places, and excitedly explains to Asano how and why he took those pictures. Asano, quite appropriately, is shocked to his bones about the whole thing, and even considers reporting their VP to the authorities. He is even more shocked when the VP tells him that he dealt with a guy that tried to ask Mutsumi out, dealt with being that he tied him up, gave him a thorough beating, and made the poor guy make a recording of himself saying he would leave Mutsumi alone. Asano sees a picture of her at home and immediately wonders how a regular VP can get access to such photos. His thoughts are then cut short when the VP whips out a knife on his throat and says that he has allowed him to be close to Mutsumi all this time because they were childhood friends, and that now it was impossible because the circumstances had changed. Asano is frozen with fear and unable to move as VP tells him that it's not personal, but that he just had to protect his kid sister because Asano can process this information. A little lowly girl shows up out of nowhere and teleports Asano away, leaving VP alone in the office. Asano wakes up on a couch, and above him he sees Mutsumi and some very strange-looking individuals. Rightly so, he bolts away at the speed of sound and rushes to a corner. Mutsumi tries to calm him down and offers to explain everything to him, but first she introduces all of them and explains that they are siblings and that she belongs to a member of a spy family. She explains to him that their VP, who is actually their brother and the very best spy, is after him because they received a tip that someone was trying to unalive Mutsumi. This caused him to start being extremely overprotective of her, which is why he was desperately trying to take him out. As they explain to him, the white-haired sister who saved him earlier explains that the only way he can protect himself is by marrying Mutsumi because there is a rule in the family that they can't harm other family members. She explains that once Mutsumi is able to offer her special family ring to him, even their stubborn-headed, overprotective brother wouldn't be dumb enough to do anything drastic. Asano stands and listens to the suggestion, but he begins to remember what happened to his last family, and his tragic PTSD begins to resurface. Mutsumi notices his attitude and realizes what is wrong. She explains to the others that he can go through something like that again because he hasn't recovered from the loss of his parents. All white Gucci girls apologize and reaffirm that she and the others would protect him from their brother, even if their chances of success against him were only 20%. They lock down the room and set traps, and as they are discussing how to give their brother a proper pounding, he just appears in their midst, sitting on a couch. They are all alert to this presence, and the fight begins as the white lowly girl swings him around before smacking him on the table. The rest of the oddball siblings follow after with their unique attacks, but the all-black vice principal is able to hold them off. Our brave and bold Mac runs on his heels and leaves the room while the siblings hold him off. His soon-to-be wife hides him behind a painting while she and her other sibling wait for VP. As VP approaches, he sees his beloved sister and Asano, but he quickly discovers they swapped places and that it's just a disguise to trick him. He confronts Mutsumi and talks about how he's willing to do anything for her and even risk his life. He gets close to her and presses her dagger against his chest until it pierces him. Mutsumi tries to appeal to him and asks that she be allowed freedom. Surprisingly, her brother accepts, but then says that he will make sure she never leaves the house forever. Asano watches all this and sees how distraught Mutsumi is, so he makes a bold move and leaves his hiding spot. He understands how her brother feels, because he too felt the same way when he lost his parents. The need to protect those you love can be a strong feeling. He declares that he will go ahead with the earlier suggested plan and marry Mutsumi. She is moved by this and tosses him the piece of her ring meant to signify the marriage. As Asano stretches to grab the ring, VP uses his spider string technique to hold him in place so he can't touch the ring. However, Asano, to everyone's surprise, is able to wrench free of the bonds and grab the ring, even though it cuts his hands and makes him bleed. The rest of the siblings rush in to find the scene, and they are all impressed by Asano. Taiyo lies in bed and thinks about the last moments he had in the Yozakura household. Mutsumi offered to walk him home, but he declined and asked about their eldest brother Kyoichiro and if he'd be okay. They assure him that he'll be fine, even though he looked like the epitome of ghosthood. Now in his bed, he looks at the ring and contemplates his new life as a husband. He wakes up the next morning and realizes he fell asleep, and as he looks up, he sees Kyoichiro looming over him with a dagger aimed at his baby-making cannon. Mitsumi's eldest brother stabs the bed and is surprised that a low-life degenerate like Taiyo has good reflexes. Taiyo, of course, looks like life has been drained out of him and is shocked as to why Kyoichiro is there. All Black VP tells him that it's the Yozakura family tradition and that they need to undergo some exercises. He then uses his string technique to prop up Taiyo and makes him dance. Downstairs, Mutsumi is making lunch and hears the screams of her beloved husband. She goes up to his room and realizes her brother is the culprit. Being oblivious to his treacherous activities, her brother exclaims that she made lunch for him. She scolds him for his, which makes him relent again. As they bicker on, her brother notices a bomb and immediately swoops in to take bother Mutsumi and Taiyo out the window as the bomb explodes behind them. Safe from the bomb, Kyoichiro explains that the bomb was set to eliminate his sister. He uses the opportunity to explain the family dynamics to Taiyo and tells him that his duty as a sibling and also Taiyo's new duty is to protect Mutsumi, who is the family head. He also explains that the individual who set the bomb must have been a notorious bomb expert who he himself employed in the past. Taiyo is confused as to how someone who worked with him before would betray him by attacking his sister. Kyoichiro explains to him that in their line of work, anyone can become enemies based on the funds available to pay. In the limo on the way to school, they're attacked by a set of men in black who shoot them and rain down rocket launchers on their heads. However, the car is bulletproof and is being driven by their loyal driver, who turns out to be a cat. Seeing that the bullets are disturbing his tea time, Kyoichiro goes up to the roof and thoroughly deals with the attackers. At school, Taiyo jumps around like a frigging ninja and checks every square inch of the classroom in order to make it safe for his darling new wife. Throughout the day, he pays close attention to her and even notices how she carries herself as the leader of such a prestigious family. On the pitch during soccer practice, the three stooges smack the ball into him accidentally and quickly rush over to apologize. As they bicker their sorries, he spots a figure moving in the classroom and rushes to investigate. There, he only meets the nurse and finds that the med bay is closed. He greets the nurse and then turns back to find that she has disappeared. Later in class, he sits down at his desk and watches Mutsumi. Just then, the three usual stooges come up to him and offer him a treat. To their utter and full shock, he accepts it and eats it. The three guys are taken aback, and as he sees their surprise, he asks them what the matter is. They explain to him that they didn't expect him to take it and that he is acting differently. Somehow, as they finish talking, he gets sick and starts feeling drowsy. His beloved wife runs to him with worry written all over her face as he passes out. He wakes up in an office because the nurse is absent, and over him, he sees his wife, Mutsumi. Immediately, like a teenager devoid of any form of confidence, he starts berating himself and complaining about his lack of expertise in protecting her. However, she smacks him on the head and tells him that he should have to worry about those things and that he is enough for her. She adds that she had always wanted him to be the one she ended up marrying. As they discuss, Taiyo notices a bomb on the ceiling, which counts down to 0 and blows up. Down below, his three wannabe friends talk about hearing a blast. Taiyo, meanwhile, stands up, and from behind the couch he used to protect himself and Mutsumi. As he analyzes the environment, he realizes that there is a mini bomb attached to his clothing. He realizes that this was the plan of the bomber all along, to use him as the human bomb and make sure he was always close to Mutsumi. Being the heroic husband-to-be, he does the most logical thing, which is to fling himself out of the window into the ground below before the bomb attached to him explodes. As he is midway hitting the ground, he is saved by Kyoichiro, who applauds him for his heroics. He pulls him back up into the office, telling him that the bomb has been disabled. As they are back in the office, much to the relief of the almost widowed wife, the rest of the siblings show up with the bomber captive. He begs for his miserable explosive life, but Kyoichiro shows no mercy and flings him towards the horizon with a bomb attached to him. He explodes in a gust of purple fumes. In a very inevitable dream, Taiyo sees a bulky, no-face dude holding Mutsumi hostage as she screams for him to help her. In the dream, he is sprawled on the floor and unable to go to an aid. As he wakes up abruptly shouting her name, he realizes that he is actually very weak. As he proceeds to step down from his bed, he accidentally tramples upon the mighty Goliath, who is the house pet. The pet screams and does damage to him as expected. Later in the living room, he sits with his beloved wife, and they discuss how the cat seems to have something against him. Later on, he goes to the all-white eldest sis and pleads with her on his knees to make him stronger. She explains to him that it won't take only emotions to get stronger, and that he can't survive the regular training made for family members. She suggests to him that he undergoes the normal, lengthy training. Instead of complying like a good boy, he maintains his stand and prompts her to train him now because he can't waste any more time and be a burden to Mutsumi. Seeing his resolve, Big Sis in all-white Gucci decides to offer him an opportunity. She suggests that he stay with them for a full month to see how long he'll last. Taiyo is surprised by this, but as he is about to leave, he discovers why it probably wouldn't be as easy as he thought. A hole opens up in the ground, and he only barely manages not to fall to his death. Smirking like a deranged witch, her white sister says that there are traps all over the house, and that living there would be a constant challenge for him. The next morning, as he wakes up, he is greeted by a bomb disguised as an alarm clock. It blows up in his face, and leads him to the rest of his treacherous day, where he can seem to catch a break from all the traps, as he settles in the dining area with his loving wife, comforting him. Texas tells him that after he survives all the traps for a while, he will be able to live normally in the house. As he eats his breakfast, they drop a hint that all the food except for Mitsumi's has been spiced with a little poison to build up resistance. As he hears this, his stomach begins to churn, and he speeds out of the dining area to the toilet. Unfortunately for him, the door is sealed tighter than a military bunker, and he is unable to get in. They tell him that all the toilets are locked like that, and he'll have to decrypt the code, which is constantly changing. The following days are hell, as he goes through one trial after the next, and only barely escapes with his life. In class the next day, he is lying helplessly on the desk and is unable to move. His stooge friends come up to him and ask what is wrong, but he is unable to tell that he is wearing a 30-kilogram shirt, which makes it hard to move. That evening, Taiyo goes to see Mutsumi and finds her asleep on her desk. He then covers her with a blanket, goes out to train on his marksmanship, and shoots the remote failingly. He turns and finds that Mutsumi is awake and still wrapped in the blanket he put on her. She asks him to take a break, and takes him inside to have some refreshments. She encourages him and tells him not to push himself too hard. She reminds him of how he has always been protecting her, and we see a flashback of how he came to her rescue one day when she was bullied by some girls who wanted to cut off the white part of her head. Having dinner again one night, he seems to be doing fine with everything and asks Mutsumi to pass him the milk. As he drinks it, his face turns ghostly and he rushes to the toilet but is still unable to open it. Soon after, he passes out on the floor and is taken to the med bay where he is treated. There, all white sis tells him that he has a fever due to fatigue and that it'll pass once he has rested. Taiyo reaffirms that he will complete his remaining week at the mansion, but she pulls away his disguise and reveals that he is bruised and injured all over his body and that he has been hiding it to show that he can survive in the mansion. Dejected Taiyo still tries to play tough guy, but she smacks him on the head and hands him a book, telling him to read it while he recovers. She steps outside and considers why he's going so far and realizes that he is doing all that because he wants to protect Mutsumi at all costs. She smiles to herself and considers that maybe Taiyo is indeed the right man for the job. Later, once Taiyo is recovered and able to move, he successfully undoes the lock on the toilet, which prompts celebration from all the siblings who are happy for him. Mutsumi is in the kitchen making some food and feeling good about herself when her half-wit husband walks in and asks about how to put on a bra. She stutters and thinks of something else, but says she'll accept him no matter what. Kengo, their other brother, disguises himself as a lady, and together he and Mutsumi lock Taiyo in a very strange position. Gonkun walks by and sees the events unfolding, but decides to be chill about it. Kyoichiro also comes in and requests a kiss from his sister before stepping out, but he is smacked in the head. Taiyo and Gunkun walk in the hallway, and he talks about going on a mid-tier mission to catch some goons who were producing counterfeit money. Before he parts with Taiyo, he He says he has something to give him. Later that day at school, Taiyo and Mutsumi are strolling in the garden, and a baseball is hit towards them. Taiyo smoothly catches it without even looking, and tosses it back at them. They see his display of skill and immediately start asking him to join their team. Later, Mutsumi lectures him about how he has to hide his inhuman abilities or else people will start to take notice. She is about to feed him some lunch when she asks if he'll be free after school to help her with some stuff. At home, it turns out that she has a ton of paperwork because she's the boss and head of the family. As she stamps, Taiyo helps her sort it. They eventually go to look for Kengo in his room, and he is deep within a pile of clothes and garbage. They confront him about paperwork, and they'd ask him to help them look for it, but he tries to run away instead, declaring that he is a free spirit. Seeing his attempt to flee, Mutsumi puts the house on lockdown, and together, she and Taiyo scour the entire mansion looking for him. Meanwhile, Shinzo is in a heavily guarded facility, and he sees a lot of the fake bills and realizes that there is someone else behind them. Back at the mansion, Taiyo and Mutsumi search all the rooms for Kenya, but are unable to find him. As they keep looking, they then run into some of the other siblings who claim they've been out busy. Taiyo and Mutsumi exchange a look, as they realize Kenya had tricked them because he dressed up as the siblings and hid in plain sight. Just then, he jumps out of a painting, and they both chase after him. As Taiyo turns a corner to catch Kengo, they switch places, but Mutsumi is able to quickly discover his trick and finally catch him. As they continue looking for the document, Kenya and Taiyo share a moment of brotherhood together, which makes Mutsumi smile outside the room. At the dining, Taiyo notes that it's taking a while. Shinzo to return from his mission. Just then, a call comes in from Shinzo, who is stuck in the faculty without a weapon after he was discovered. Taiyo quickly suits up and goes to his resume with the help of his wife. As he sneaks up into the facility, he is spotted by guards, but thanks to all the tedious training he received, he is able to disarm them. He makes his way to Shinzo and hands him the package from Mutsumi. They are attacked by more guards, but Shinzo disables all of them in an instant. They bolt for the exit, but then Taiyo is shot in the leg by a sniper, who then tells Shinzo to drop his weapon or he'll be unalive. Mutsumi had warned Taiyo about this situation, so he throws a small fork-like weapon to Shinzo, who then uses it to take out the sniper. They later walk back home with Taiyo strapped firmly on Shinzo's back with his bandaged leg. Thanks for joining us on another adventure, my fellow Weebs. If you enjoyed this episode of Weebtoons, make sure to smash that like button and leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel.